danger in the park. But when Noah stepped between danger and a terrified woman, he didn't realize he was about to be pulled into a galactic chase across the stars. A wounded hero, a hidden heir to a distant world, and a fight for freedom no one saw coming. This story will grip your heart and fire up your imagination. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and show some love by giving this video a thumbs up. Now let's dive into this unforgettable journey. Noah Grant didn't expect anything unusual that afternoon. The Riverside Park was quiet, bathed in the golden light of a late summer sun. Kids played near the fountain, couples strolled hand in hand, and joggers weaved through the tree-lined paths. Life, for once, felt simple. Noah sat alone on a worn wooden bench sipping from a lukewarm paper cup of cheap coffee. He watched birds peck at crumbs and listened to the distant sound of laughter. But behind his still eyes was a mind that never truly rested. Ever since leaving his job as a firefighter after a warehouse accident that nearly took his life, Noah had been drifting. He took odd jobs, kept his distance from people, and tried not to think too hard about the things he couldn't change. The quiet suited him, until he noticed her. She stood near the park's edge, just beyond the shaded path, dressed plainly in jeans and a beige hoodie. She blended in, but something about her didn't sit right with Noah. Her posture was too straight, her movements too deliberate. She kept glancing around, her hand tightly clutching a small dark device. She wasn't from around here, that much he could tell. She looked nervous, like someone expecting trouble. And Noah had seen enough trouble in his life to know when it was about to show up. Then he saw them. 3 men in black coats walking in a triangle formation, slowly closing in on her. They didn't look like police or security. Their walk was too casual, their eyes too focused. They were hunting. Noah's muscles tensed. His body reacted before his brain fully caught up. He tossed the rest of his coffee and stood, watching, as the woman began walking quickly toward the other end of the park. The men followed, picking up their pace. His instincts screamed at him. He didn't owe this woman anything. Maybe she was a thief. Maybe she was just paranoid. Maybe he was reading too much into it. But when one of the men reached into his coat and pulled out something small and metallic that caught the sunlight, Noah's doubts vanished. That wasn't a phone. It was a weapon, and this woman was in real danger. Without a second thought, he moved. Years of training kicked in, and his steps were silent but purposeful. He cut across the grassy slope, keeping them in his line of sight. The woman turned down a quiet side path lined with trees. The men followed. So did Noah. "Hey!" he shouted, his voice deep and commanding. Everyone stopped. The woman turned, her eyes wide with fear. The men froze, their hands twitching near their coats. One of them stepped forward, his face twisting with irritation. "Walk away, man. This doesn't concern you." Noah didn't blink. "Looks like she's in trouble, just making sure she's all right." "She's fine," another said, his tone sharp. But the woman wasn't fine. She was trembling, barely holding it together. She took a small step toward Noah. That was all he needed. He stepped in front of her. "You sure about that?" The first man lunged. It happened fast. Noah ducked, his arm snapping up, striking the attacker in the stomach. The man stumbled back. Another pulled something out. It wasn't a standard gun. Sleek and matte black, it had a strange shimmer. Noah didn't care what it was. He pushed the woman behind him just as the weapon fired. A burning pain ripped through his shoulder and he staggered. The woman screamed, grabbing onto him, but he stayed upright. The others hesitated for just a second, surprised he was still standing. That second was all he needed. He grabbed a trash bin from the path and hurled it with everything he had. It slammed into the gunman, knocking him sideways. The woman didn't wait. She grabbed Noah's hand and ran. He followed, his shoulder on fire, weaving through the trees and back toward the crowd. No one helped. People stared. A few stepped back. But they ran anyway, bursting onto the main path and sprinting across the grass toward the far exit. When they finally ducked into an alley behind a closed bookstore, Noah collapsed against the wall, his breathing ragged. His shirt was soaked in blood. He could barely see straight. "You didn't have to do that," the woman said, kneeling beside him, her voice soft but steady. Noah gave her a pained smile. Well, I couldn't just let them shoot you. She looked down, almost ashamed. Then, she pulled out the device she'd been clutching since the beginning. She pressed a button and it began to glow faintly. A low hum filled the air. Noah felt warmth spreading across his shoulder, a strange tingling sensation as if his skin was stitching itself back together. He looked down. The wound was closing quickly. Blood stopped flowing. The pain faded. What the hell? He whispered. She met his eyes. I'll explain everything, but we need to leave. They're not done. Noah tried to speak, but only nodded. His world had just shifted and he didn't even know her name. But whatever this was, it was only the beginning. Noah opened his eyes slowly, unsure of where he was. The ceiling above him pulsed with soft lights that moved like waves. The air smelled clean, almost too clean, and the faint hum of machinery surrounded him. He tried to sit up but groaned at the sharp ache in his shoulder. Then he remembered. The park, the men in black, the strange woman, the gunshot. But something didn't make sense. His shoulder still hurt, but it didn't feel injured anymore. He touched it gently and found smooth skin. No blood, no bandage. You're awake, a calm voice said nearby. Noah turned his head quickly, wincing at the movement. She was standing by the wall, her face familiar but different. She wore a long robe that shimmered like water under moonlight, its colors shifting subtly with each step she took toward him. This wasn't the hoodie and jeans woman he had helped in the park. She looked elegant now, almost regal. What is this place? He asked, his voice raspy. You're safe, she said. We're aboard my transport. I healed your wound. It's the least I could do. Noah sat up more slowly this time and looked around. The room was small but sleek, with smooth metal, walls and glowing symbols he couldn't begin to understand. This doesn't look like any hospital I've ever seen, he muttered. Who are you? What's going on? She paused for a moment, as if choosing her words carefully. My name is Lena, and I'm not from here, not from Earth. Noah stared at her. You're joking, right? I wish I were, she said quietly. I didn't mean to get you involved, but those men would have captured me if you hadn't stepped in. You saved my life. He rubbed his forehead, trying to process everything. Okay, say I believe you. Why were they after you? What do they want? They work for a man named General Corrin, Lena said. He's taken control of my homeworld. I escaped before he could. Use me to strengthen his rule. Noah frowned. Use you? How? I'm the rightful heir to my people's leadership, she replied. If he controls me, he controls everything. I refused to be his pawn, so I fled. But he sent bounty hunters after me. Noah leaned back against the smooth wall, shaking his head. So let me get this straight. You're some kind of space princess, running from a dictator who wants to use you for power. And now, because I helped you, I've got a target on my back too? Lena gave a small, sad smile. Yes. And I'm truly sorry, Noah. You didn't ask for any of this. He let out a breath. No, I didn't. But it's a little late for that now. Before she could respond, a loud alarm rang out through the ship. Red lights flashed along the walls, and the humming sound grew louder. Lena's face turned serious as she looked at the screen mounted to the wall. They've found us, she said. They must have tracked the healing pulse from the device. Noah jumped to his feet, his instincts kicking in again. How long do we have? Minutes, maybe less. Then we need to move. Now. Lena ran to the door and it opened with a soft hiss. Beyond it was a narrow corridor lit by glowing blue panels. They moved quickly, with Noah keeping pace despite the dull ache in his shoulder. As they reached the cockpit, Lena slipped into the pilot seat and started activating controls. The windows showed the vast emptiness of space outside. Noah's breath caught. He had never seen anything like it before. Stars stretched endlessly in every direction, and a large blue and green planet, Earth, was already far behind them. "This still feels like a dream," he said softly. Lena didn't look at him. "I wish it were." Suddenly, a new alert flashed on the screen. Another ship had appeared on the radar, fast and closing in on them. "They're already here," Lena said. "It's one of Koran's pursuit crafts. Can we outrun it?" "I can try, but this isn't a combat vessel. It was built for diplomacy, not battle." "Great," Noah muttered. "So we're outgunned and outmatched." Lena's fingers danced over the controls. "There might be one place we can go. An old ally. He's in hiding, but if we reach him, he might help us disappear." "Where is he?" "A colony on the far side of the Tarian Belt. It's a long trip, and we'll need to shake the pursuit ship first." "Then let's do it." The ship's engines roared, and they jumped forward into a tight escape route. Outside, the enemy vessel began firing glowing energy blasts. The ship shook with the first hit, and Lena adjusted the shields. Noah grabbed the co-pilot seat, his heart pounding. "This isn't how I expected my day to go," he muttered. Lena glanced at him. "You're handling it better than most would. I guess once you've run into burning buildings, a space chase isn't the worst thing." She gave a small laugh, despite the danger. "I'm glad it was you in that park, Noah." He didn't answer, but deep down something stirred in him, a feeling he hadn't had in a long time. Purpose. And he wasn't about to let that slip away. The stars outside looked calm, but the chase was anything but. Noah sat in the co-pilot's seat, eyes locked on the blinking screen that showed a red dot growing closer by the second. Behind them, the sleek black ship of their pursuers was gaining fast. It didn't matter how far they ran or how many twists they took through space. It was like the hunters could smell their trail. Lena worked silently beside him, her fingers flying across the controls, her expression tight with focus. The ship's engines hummed louder as she pushed them harder, trying to stay one step ahead. Noah couldn't believe how quickly his life had changed. Just 2 days ago, he was sitting on a bench, sipping bad coffee and feeding crumbs to birds. Now he was being hunted through the stars by armed strangers chasing a woman from another world. It all sounded impossible, like something from a late-night sci-fi movie. But the blood on his shirt and the dull ache in his shoulder reminded him. It was all very real. "We won't make it at this pace," Lena said, her voice tense. "Their ship is faster and armed with better weapons." "Then what's the plan?" Noah asked, scanning the controls even though he didn't understand half of them. "There's an asteroid field up ahead. It's risky, but we can use the debris as cover. If we lose them there, we'll have a shot at reaching the colony." "Risky how?" Noah said, narrowing his eyes. "One wrong move and we crash." Noah gave a short nod. "All right, let's do it." Lena didn't hesitate. She turned the ship toward the field, and within moments the stars outside were replaced by massive chunks of rock drifting slowly in space. Some were the size of cars, others as big as buildings. The ship shook as they entered, dodging the floating giants by the slimmest margins. Behind them, the black vessel followed, weaving through the obstacles like a predator that refused to let go. "Hold on," Lena said. The ship dropped suddenly, sliding under a jagged rock formation. Noah gripped the armrests, every muscle in, his body tense. The ship rolled to the side, barely avoiding a spinning boulder. A blast of energy flew past the window, too close for comfort. "They're still on us," he said through gritted teeth. "I know," she replied, sweat forming on her brow. Noah's eyes darted to the weapons panel. He didn't know much about space combat, but he understood basic aiming. He reached forward and armed a small turret mounted on the back of their ship. The system responded, showing a clear visual of the enemy ship. "Got eyes on them," he said. "Let's give them something to think about." He waited for the perfect moment, then tapped the fire control. A burst of energy shot from the rear turret, striking one of the hunter's engines. It didn't destroy the ship, but it sent it into a spin, knocking it into a chunk of floating rock. The resulting explosion lit up the asteroid field like a flare. Lena let out a breath. "You got them." Noah leaned back, his heart racing. Don't sound so surprised. I'm not, just relieved. They flew out of the asteroid field and into open space once again. The silence was almost shocking after the chaos. The stars were still out there, twinkling like distant fires. For a few precious moments, they weren't being hunted. They had space to breathe. We're not out of danger yet, Lena said after a long pause. But we have time now, enough to make it to Riven. Riven's the ally you mentioned? Noah asked. She nodded. He used to be one of my advisors, back home. When everything fell apart, he went into hiding. I don't know if he'll help, but he's all we've got. Noah didn't say anything at first. He looked at her, really looked. She seemed younger now, more vulnerable. The strength she showed was real, but it came from carrying a burden she hadn't chosen. She wasn't just a runaway or a princess. She was someone trying to survive while doing what was right. I'm with you, he said finally. Whatever happens, I'm not walking away. Lena looked at him, her eyes softening. Thank you, Noah. I mean it. The next few hours passed, intense silence with only the soft hum of the ship to break the stillness. When the colony finally appeared on their screens, it looked like a ring of metal wrapped around a dead moon. Old, dented, and far from welcoming, it was a place for people who didn't want to be found. They landed in a dim docking bay where lights flickered and the air smelled faintly of rust. A tall man with a gray coat waited for them. His hair was messy, his eyes sharp. Riven, Lena said, stepping forward. The man looked at her for a long moment, then gave a small nod. You shouldn't have come. But I suppose I'm glad you did. Noah watched as they embraced briefly. The moment was heavy with unspoken history. Whatever came next, they were no longer running alone. And though danger still chased them through the stars, hope had found a way back into the story. The meeting room was small and dimly lit, tucked deep within the hollow structure of the old moon colony. Dust hung in the air like a ghost of the past, and faded maps covered the walls, showing star systems Noah had never heard of. Around a battered metal table, Lena, Noah, and Riven sat together, each one carrying the weight of the journey on their shoulders. The tension between them wasn't from mistrust. It came from the shared understanding that what they were about to do could change everything. Riven, once a trusted advisor to Lena's family, had lived in exile for years. His face was older now, lined with the marks of battles lost and allies buried, but his mind was still sharp. He had contacts scattered across the nearby systems, people who still believed in Lena's family and what they stood for. He had avoided conflict for a long time, but now, with Lena standing before him, he saw something that reignited a part of him he thought was long gone. Hope. They won't stop chasing you, Riven said, leaning forward, his hands clasped, and they won't stop at you anymore. Now that you've brought someone from Earth into this, General Corrin will view it as an act of rebellion. Lena nodded. Then maybe it's time we stop running. Noah watched her speak with a calm strength. She wasn't the frightened woman he had seen in the park. She had changed, and so had he. Something about the fire in her voice lit a spark in him too. Riven raised an eyebrow. You want to fight back? I want to start something Corrin can't silence, Lena said. We can't win a war, not yet. But we can send a message, show the people back home that I'm alive, that I'm not afraid. Noah leaned in. You said he controls the communication lines. How do we get past that? Riven pulled out a small screen from his coat and tapped it. A map of satellite, routes and signal towers lit up in blue and red. There's a broadcast relay on the old trade moon, Orvin. It's abandoned mostly, but the signal tower there can still reach half the colonies if we boost the signal. The problem is, it's guarded now. Corrin's men use it to scan for resistance messages. If we take it over even for a short time, we could send your message. It's a long shot, Lena said. But it's the best one we have. Noah looked at the map, then at the two of them. Then we do it. 2 days later, they landed under the cover of the long Orvin night. The trade moon was quiet, its surface covered in black rock and twisted metal towers. The cold air bit at their faces as they stepped off the ship. With them were a handful of Riven's loyal contacts, people who had answered the call even after all these years. Among them was a woman named Tessa, once a commander in Lena's family's defense fleet, now a mechanic and smuggler. Her quiet nod of respect toward Lena said more than words ever could. They moved quickly through the shadows, reaching the signal tower just before dawn. The building was tall and narrow, rising like a jagged tooth against the pale sky. Corin's guards were few but alert. Noah and Tessa slipped through a side entrance while Riven led the others to create a distraction on the opposite side. Inside, the tower was colder than expected. Pipes hissed and old lights flickered overhead. Noah had never seen technology like this before, but Tessa guided him with calm precision. Together they reached the control room. Lena arrived moments later, her face pale but determined. "You're sure you want to do this?" Noah asked her quietly. Lena looked at him, her eyes steady. "If I don't, more people will die in silence. This is our only chance to be heard." She stepped up to the console, pressing her hand against a glowing pad. The system responded to her, recognizing the royal code that had been dormant for years. A low hum filled the room as the transmitter powered up. Lena spoke into the receiver, her voice calm but strong. "To the people of Ivara and the outer colonies, this is Lena Miles. I am alive. I escaped, but I have not forgotten you. I speak today not with weapons, but with truth. General Corin took our homes, our families, our freedom, but he has not taken our hope. If you still believe in a future worth fighting for, you are not alone. I am with you, and I will not stop." Outside, the guards noticed the signal spike. Alarms blared. Corin's men began storming the tower. Tessa secured the entrance, locking it down while Noah kept watch from the upper window. "They're coming fast," he called out. Lena hit the final command to broadcast the message system-wide. "It's done. Time to go," Tessa shouted. They rushed back down the hall, slipping through the emergency exit into the dust-covered streets of Orvan. Their ship was already warming up, engines humming. As they lifted off, energy blasts struck the ground behind them, but they were in the air before real damage could be done. Back in orbit, silence returned. The message had gone out. All they could do now was wait. A day later, responses started to pour in, not just from one colony, but dozens. Small groups, resistance cells, and even ex-government leaders reached out. The fire had been lit. Noah stood next to Lena as she read the incoming messages, a eye-to-eye smile breaking across her tired face. For the first time, she looked like someone who believed victory was possible. "You did it," he said. She turned to him. "We did it." He nodded, then looked out the window at the stars stretching far and wide. A new fight was coming, but they were no longer running, they were rising together.